Welcome all. We are at 1 million cups and we like to drink coffee and or coffee tea and or tea. Anything's welcome. We're also inclusive around that. We would love you to join us on any of our socials if you want to keep in touch with us and what we're doing. And also you can sign up at that link, the bit.ly link down there, 1MC Seattle email, because that will give you reminders each week to tell you, hey guys, we're starting in an hour, like come hang out. So it's easy to forget things. We have a lot on our plates as entrepreneurs. So what are we? Who are we? We are about sharing our ideas and specifically our entrepreneurial ideas, but any ideas is good. We like to offer help to the people that come to 1 million cups, and we like to ask for help from the community as well. And we like to build this community here. And I think we've done a really good job over our COVID stint and now into the future to keep building this community and connecting with each other and supporting each other through this journey. And we've been able to do that by having people come back and tell us about their COVID pivots and sharing our journeys as we've gone through these challenging times, but also just day to day, hearing what you're up to and saying, hey, it's hard to be an entrepreneur, keep at it. And we're different to other networking events, or we're not really a networking event. So we're different to what you'd usually have as a business community. We're here when you come to 1 million cups, we are about presentations. We don't pitch each other. We want to just share our stories. And we like to connect instead of networking, because that leads to more like it's the better version of networking, if you want to put it that way, where you actually get more done. And we like to do this for the community, by the community. So it's community run and community centric. And we do everything we can to be radically intentionally inclusive. And if anybody has any ideas or wants to help us be even more radically intentionally inclusive, please let us know. We are open ears and we're always trying to do better. So we are a national organization, and there are a bunch of communities across the country, all the way from the east coast to Alaska. Isn't one in Hawaii yet? We're working on that. And there's a lot of volunteers and a heck of a lot of attendees, and we just can't wait to have more, hopefully, as we open up and people get less Zoom fatigue as well. And basically, we are seeking education, presentations, and connections here. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what we try and supply you. Usually back in the day, not usually anymore, back in the day we were in person. We would have thousands and thousands of people share their story with us. So this is not a new endeavor, and we're doing it for a while. But now we're getting quite comfortable in the online space, but we hope to someday get back into in person. This was at the Collective that used to be our stomping grounds. What brought these events together and still does, especially during this time we went online, is our great sponsors, the McLaughlin Method, Stamp Act Coffee, Human Up, in a small studio, all sponsor us for various parts of keeping this amazing. Seems easy, but actually takes a bunch to do and keeps us going. Speaking of which, we have the bunch to do is done by our awesome community volunteers. A lot of them you'll see here on this call, and we love making this happen. It does take a lot. And so if anybody wants to get in and learn and help keep this beautiful community going, do get in contact with us. And what you can expect today, we have coffee, we have chats, and then we'll have a beautiful presentation just in a moment by Mark. And after that, we'll have 20 minutes of Q&A. So after the 6 minutes, and we try and keep it to 6 minutes so that the presenter can share with us, but most of the time is spent asking questions because we want to give them value and that back and forth. So 20 minutes will be Q&A, and we'll give you a little bit of help around how to do the Q&A when we get there. And then afterwards, we also have breakout rooms where you can do more connecting. You chat about Mark's awesome offering. You go and talk about geese butts, who knows, whatever is interesting and fun and connect to the other person, you keep on going. So just during the presentation, remember to be a supportive listener. And we sometimes think we are, but here's some hints to help keep you being the supportive listener you want to be. Keep your energy focused and your distractions limited so that can be anything. Try and keep your phones out of the way and give yourself a break, a great break. And what stands out for you in the presentation from Mark is helpful for you to ask questions later and keep yourself engaged. And what do you want to learn more about? What is the, oh, can you explain this a little bit more? And maybe there's a place where you can share what you know and be of help to Mark, which is what we're here for. And let's try, when we're doing that, think about what, when you're listening, instead of being like, oh, Mark should do this with his, whatever his thing is, it should be more like, what about if Mark thought about this? And that can help you guide your listening and also help you in the Q&A afterwards. So with that, we are going to get Mark to take over this beautiful screen that you are looking at right now while I unshare mine. And I'm going to hand it over to Mark to let us know about Trailmerge.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Let's start sharing. Cool. Well, it's super awesome to be here with y'all. It's kind of a bit of a homecoming in a way to Seattle virtually. As you can see, I'm in Atlanta right now, but give you a little background on myself. I graduated from Seattle Pacific back in 2011, so 10 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. Since then, eventually I found a career in user experience design and have been building that. Really enjoyed the intersection between design and entrepreneurship, and have really been blessed with some really great opportunities kind of along the way, from being able to give a TEDx talk to teaching at General Assembly, working at one of the largest companies in the country at Home Depot on their UX team, and working with several awesome startups. But one thing that's really stood out to me has been the opportunity to mentor other designers and mentor entrepreneurs, which is a really big reason why I started Trailmerge. So a big part of Trailmerge is really about supporting specifically software entrepreneurs as they're starting out and developing their products, really trying to work on building a product that people love and can easily adopt, and then be successful with that. So what exactly are we? We offer embedded UX teams to these software as a service companies. So what that looks like is, unlike an agency that would come in kind of on a short-term basis and charge a bunch of money and then peace out after a few month engagement, we're really there for a longer haul. We're a part of the team, and we're not as crazy expensive as an agency would be. So that long-term is sustainable. That's our first client is a really good example of this. We started Trailmerge in April of 2020. Mortgage broker here in the Atlanta area reached out to me and just had a concept for mortgage related application, basically to help all the parties involved in a home transaction informed as to the process of a loan, something that loan officers can update and keep everybody informed fairly easily. So really, he just started out with a single wireframe of a dashboard that he had in mind. He came to us with that. We helped him to flesh out that design, not only from just the visual perspective, but also thinking of how users would flow through the application, how it would be architected. And we supported the development efforts through that. Now they have a beta version live and has users, and we continue to support him as he just brought on a full-time developer, and just some really exciting progress. So here we are, a little over a year later, continuing to just build momentum with him. And this is what he has to say about us. So he said, Trailmerge has been the difference between success and failure for our early stage startup. So thank you, Sean. It was back in February that I transitioned to focusing on Trailmerge full time. So prior to that, I was the design director at a startup here in Atlanta called User IQ. It works in the customer success space. So their customers are our fellow SaaS apps that are trying to support their customers. And they actually transitioned over to becoming our second long-term client. This is the current team that we have. So myself here in Georgia, Jason, who was with us from the start. He's based out of South Carolina. He recently came on full-time. And Victoria, who's on the call here, calling in from Columbus, Ohio. And she started back a little bit earlier this year. So super excited to have a really just a great team, very talented team. And we've been fully distributed. Obviously kind of have to be with COVID, even if you're in the same city. But I think it's been just kind of a unique and fun thing to build something that's kind of across state lines. So hope to continue doing that. A little snapshot at where we're at right now. In June, here we are working with two kind of longer term retainer clients. Again, two full-time team members right now. We've started to introduce design audits, which I'll talk about those in a second. But we are wrapping up 4 of those this month and delivering those to clients. We continue to work on blogs and webinars, are kind of our main way of both getting some educational content out there and marketing outreach. And we hit 1 year in business back in April. So this is an example of one of the blogs that we've put out. This one, if you're going to take a look at the blog, this is a really good place to start. It talks a lot about, especially if you're kind of coming in as a non-technical founder, starting your first software company, this gets into why design is important kind of from the get-go and some of the things that you can think about as you get started. So looking in the future here, one of the things that we're working on right now is solidifying our offerings and our messaging. So we've been working on a few different ways to engage with clients, especially initially. And one of the things that we're going to be working on kind of in the shorter term future is going to be revamping our website, having it reflect some of those new offerings and messaging. We've been starting to do webinars in partnership with startup communities. So next week, we'll be presenting on UX to a group out of Sacramento, Startup Sac. We just did a couple months ago a webinar for Founder Institute Denver. So we've been just partnering with different communities around the country, providing UX education, and particularly for earlier stage startups. We're continuing to build accelerator startup community and development shop partnerships. So we don't actually do the development in-house. We're very focused on UX design, which seems to work well for the companies that we've been working with, since they either have internal developers or they're working with a development shop separate from us. And we are hoping to bring on an additional designer by the end of Q2 or at least the very beginning of Q3. So I mentioned the design audits. Basically what we do with these is it's a single flat $800 engagement. This is perfect for SaaS startups who have some sort of platform in place, even if it's just kind of a prototype or initial designs. And really ideally, there's actually something that's live in production, but we basically go through and pinpoint specific areas of application that could use help from a usability point of view and measure those against industry best practices, and then assign them a severity level so that the software companies can then basically put things in their backlog, prioritize them, get them ready for development, or get them ready for prioritization for work by the design team. So any questions?
Woo! I bet there's a lot of questions. That was a smooth ride. That was a pretty smooth ride through that presentation. I really enjoyed, which, that's not always the case. And so I'm really stoked for you. Awesome. So this, thank you so much. I'm going to jump I'm going to jump and share my screen again. So I will find where it is, because we're about to go into our favorite part. And I know most of you know how this works, but I'm going to do it anyway if I can find my presentation. I'm having the 2 million tabs open issue. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm doing the classic. It's actually the other side on a totally different desktop issue.
The other side of the cassette.
Exactly. It's the B side. Dang. That's
Maybe the other side of the CD.
There it is. There it is. Okay. That's it. Great. So thank you so much, Mark. Super exciting. Remember, for our question, ask a question, everyone seems there's a lot of hands up. Great. If you don't know how to do that, just jump over onto the feedback now. Looks different when it's on here. Anyway, you'll find it, I'm sure. This is going back. Reactions, that's right. Raise your hand. Okay, question asking, we have helpful hints in the chat about how to ask questions. And just remembering some of those reminders of no shoulds, and keeping open and curious about the responses. Try with one breath questions. We're trying to, it's a good thing to try, especially with so many questions coming up. Try to just articulate your question as succinctly as possible, and we'll that gives Mark a chance to respond, and we get through more people. So that being said, I'm going to look in my handy dandy little line here, and my first question is by Katie. We'll bring Katie to ask Mark a question.
Yay, Mark. Great job. It was great to hear your story, Mark. I got a preview of this. I worked with Mark a little while ago.
Katie gets credit for a lot of this, the smoothness.
It was great. I thought it was really clear how you kind of put everything in the order that you did. And it got me thinking about something that I think this is what great presentations do, is it gets us thinking about other things, right? And so my question for you is, it's kind of two parts. So are you doing the development work in addition to doing the design work? And if not, how does an entrepreneur who, or a nascent young SaaS company decide to hire UX design over development?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I kind of pick those apart into two different things. So are we doing development? No, we're not doing development within our internal team. That said, we have been starting to build a partnership with a development shop that currently one of our clients, we referred them to one of our clients. They've started out. Seems like it's been a great kind of situation. We're still obviously kind of seeing like how does this first engagement really work to be able to say like, this is our development partner, 100% that we're definitely going to refer to folks. But there is kind of that question initially, and I think especially if you're coming in from a non-technical point of view, where you kind of have this idea of, I just need to hire a developer, I just need to build this thing. But one thing when you're going into that process is, if you don't have very, very clear requirements as to the details of what's going to be built, it can be really difficult for the developers to A, estimate how long is this going to take, and then B, they're going to have to interpret it, which you don't want a developer doing 9 times out of 10. You want a designer involved in that process. So.
Great answer. Loved that. Very clear. I feel like you even know a little more about your business. Thank you, Katie. Okay. And next up is Jolene.
So right now I'm curious, from the offering of this kind of $800 to kind of look at things versus kind of starting out with a client at the very beginning, which one is the path that you're most interested in? And is there one that's kind of supplementing the other, or yeah?
Yeah, it's a good question. Someone like broker, who was the mortgage application, they were a very early stage, just the concept. And I think that's a great place to start because you can really build a good foundation and you don't have to do a lot of rework.
Yeah.
That said, that is a lot of the times not where somebody is thinking about design yet. So there really is a higher education aspect. And there's also just the realities of funding that come into play there. So the mortgage broker, for example, he has his own mortgage business. So that was doing well enough for him to be able to fund the design and development work without taking on investment. But a lot of times that's not the case. So a lot of times it's going to be after you have kind of an initial seed round of investment that you can start saying, okay, we need to look at design now. At that point you have something, and then you probably need to tear a bunch of it down. But that's really kind of where the audit comes into play. So I would say, like, I think that early stage is an ideal, but it's not the reality most of the time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow, it's just like, boom, got an answer. I love this. Everyone's doing great. So I will call up Jay for the next question, a resident librarian.
Thank you. Nice presentation, Mark. I really enjoyed it. I think I think there is a need for the exact thing that you're doing. Katie kind of asked my question already, but I'll rephrase it a little bit or shift it anyway. It seems like, in my experience of, working with people and answering questions, they have the question that they want to ask, or no, there's the question that they want to ask, and then there's the question that they ask. Mm-hmm. And so they ask the thing that they're supposed to ask, and it seems to me like in your kind of that marketing and kind of framing it in those terms, it seems like the question that they think they should ask is, we need somebody to build our website, or build out our thing. But what they really need is that design so that they can then go and hire that person. Mm-hmm. So I think that's it seems you're probably already aware, but it occurs to me that that's like the challenge is really bringing them to that second question. And I, in my experience, like, it seems like focusing on education and like that part of things probably is the way to go. Because I'm working with people right now who have that exact, they're not SaaS, that's not their industry, but that's exactly what they're trying to do. Is like, how do I figure out what this thing is going to cost so I can go hire you?
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, and one thing that's interesting as well with the cost question that you bring up is a lot of times there's kind of that misconception of, oh, well, there's a point where this is done, and software just doesn't work that way. No. Right? It's an ongoing thing. It's not like you're designing a logo or something like that. There's a finished product at the end of that. But design is really a multidisciplinary field. It's not really like one discipline in the sense that you need to be able to do the research and connect the research to what you're actually building, and then connect that into development and how that whole process works. But yeah, it is interesting. It's kind of an ongoing process, and it's really a mindset shift. So I appreciate that comment about education. I think that's super important.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice. All right, Lindy, we will have your question next.
Thanks, Tessa. Mark, Victoria, welcome. It's nice to hear from you, Mark. Maybe this is a question for Victoria, but you talked about having a team that's distributed, right? And you're not just talking about being distributed among a geographic area in one state. You've got multiple states that you're dealing with. So I guess my question is, do you have any tips you could offer us about how you manage the complexity of being qualified to do business in multiple states, and how you guys handle the infrastructure of that, so to speak?
Yeah, I can kind of touch on that a little bit. We're in 3 states right now. Mark and Jason are full-time and I'm part-time. So when you, more of like on a contract role. So when you have a full-time employee, you do have to register, with that state's Department of Revenue, Department of Labor, and making sure you're set up for the proper tax liabilities and that you're paying your SUTA tax and things like that. So it gets a little complicated and lots of time on Google, honestly, and trying to research that. And then we do use a compliance partner. So I'm drawing a blank on the name. Is it Safe Harbor? Harbor Compliance?
Oh yeah,
Harbor
yeah,
Compliance.
for the registered
agent.
Yeah.
Is part of that. So having a registered agent in each state that you have an employee is something to be aware of as well. And then just
So
coordinating.
Sorry, I was going to say, so this is something you guys manage all in-house. You don't have like a partner or like a PEO or somebody that's doing it for you. You're like, you know what, we're just going to dig in and handle it.
Yep, that's the strategy right now. Yeah,
I like that.
It's been a learning curve
Thanks,
for
Victoria.
sure. No problem.
Great. I love it. You're doing the education part already, and it's not even related to your business. Well, it is internally, but not your product. Awesome. My turn. Okay.
Sweet.
I have to stand at the back of the line. It's really hard for me. So thank you so much. I want to say I really enjoyed going through the presentation with you, hearing you talk about it. Was very I felt relaxed, and I felt like you knew where you were taking us. The only thing I have a few presentation comments, and obviously everyone you want to present yourself how you want to present yourself. So nobody else is right about it. But for me, experiencing your presentation, there's a couple of things that I would have loved. I think the only part that I got a little bit confused was right at the beginning when I saw you and I wanted to know more about you. However, pictures of just standing in front of other people is one, I want to see you doing that, but then I want to see the things that you were saying to me, which clicked, which was TED Talk, big organizations. I'm thinking, I know this sounds terrible, and it's not saying do this, but it's the concept of a landing page where you put your here are some just main big names that I might have done. Some people are terrible with landing pages. They're oh, I talked to a reporter from Forbes for 10 seconds and never got put in Forbes, but I'm going to say put Forbes on it. But you did a TED Talk. You worked with Home Depot. These are big names that everyone knows. And that helps me go, oh, look at that awesome person's face, action, doing things, and boom, boom, boom. Also all the things that you're saying, I want to see it so that it's there visually. So that's just one thing, and it's very simple, but that's also a personal choice about how you want to present yourself. The other thing was you talked about mentoring other designers, and I came into this really not knowing anything. I went onto your website too, and because I've done a bit of marketing, just dealing with design and development from a marketing standpoint, but I wasn't sure. I was excited to learn about it, and then I thought I understood, and then I think I was wrong. You said, I love mentoring other designers. And so for a second there, I was oh, is this a person who goes in there and has designers that they mentor, and then they get them opportunities with startups and get them as they're part of your team, but you're actually mentoring them to be, and I was that's really cool. And then I was wait, no, that's not it. It's actually, you have your own team and you're providing a service to these clients as your own team. Am I correct in that?
So you're actually correct in both. So yeah, the big idea kind of behind why I started Trailmerge to begin with is, I was actually working with Home Depot in kind of a contract capacity. They had probably about 30 of us designers that they let go one spring. And, I was seeing a lot of the other designers that I was working with, they had 1 year experience, half a year experience, things like that. They're going back into the job market. But, especially that early in their career, it can be really difficult, to find significant opportunities, especially within the UX field. And two, even if you find that good opportunity, it's, how do you actually get mentored? How do you grow professionally in that context versus just being thrown into a situation where all of a sudden you're viewed as the expert, but you're very green. So this whole concept of working in an agency type format really rose up from what's a sustainable business model that can enable me to really help some of these junior designers to advance in their careers. So Jason, for example, he was one of my students at General Assembly. And you know, we worked on some stuff with User IQ before I started Trailmerge. But you know, since I started Trailmerge, you know, there's been kind of this pairing relationship that where we've paired on projects together. It's been very direct mentorship, but it's been more in like a hands-on, like we're working on something together type of a way, not just like a, hey, let's go grab coffee and I'll hear about where your career is at right now, and then we'll see each other in like 2 months. So yeah, so now he's getting to the point where, you know, I'm ready to throw him on the next like client that comes in, because he's going to be able to lead that next designer who comes in and lead the project. And, you know, really I want to see that be a replicated model where there's teams of at least 2 working on every client project. So that's good from a client perspective because you have continuity. So if one person leaves, then knowledge doesn't completely leave the room. But it's also great from like the designer's point of view, because you have the multiple perspectives, which is super important in design. And then you also have kind of that mentorship relationship going on. So then they're getting ready for the next stage of their career, whether it's with us or somewhere else.
So, and I am breaking a technical rule here because I'm going to, and everyone hates me, but there's only one other hand up and there's lots of time left. So I'm just, I have a million questions for you about like this, but obviously I'm not going to ask them. Thank you for clarifying. And I think that just the takeaway for me that I would like to share with you for that is, I feel like the mentoring is the passion why for you. And that is awesome. And interestingly enough, in this situation, the passion why is like important. And I feel like there is the selling to the client and selling people on you, and whoever you're presenting to, they're really important. And I think either for clarity's sake, make the mentoring part either a selling point of why you're different at the end, if you feel like you need it. I feel like you've got a great selling point, just the difference is you're actually a team alongside their team. That part is the client facing one. And maybe I love the passion you have for the mentor. I love it. And I actually am so fascinated about how that different business model would work. And I just think there are people who will want to hear different parts of that's more important than the other part. So keep the mentoring out if you're selling to a client, unless they need a clincher or they react to that kind of thing, or vice versa. Bring the mentoring in if you're trying to sell yourself as a person and why you're different. And that's all I'm saying for just clarity, which involves a different presentation.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for indulging. So we have 2 more questions, and Katie and then Kareem. And if you do want to ask another question, feel free, just put your hand up so I know how to time it.
Okay, so I want to take this conversation into a slightly different direction based off of kind of Lindy's question earlier about team. And, you know, I wanted to kind of like real talk a little bit, like founder to founder, of how did you like get to the point of confidence that you could offer somebody a salary and that you knew that you could keep paying them, right? Like, how do you balance, right? Because that's, I think, part of the challenge of bringing on actual employees as opposed to just contractors. So I'm just would love to pick your brain about that.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's kind of a few things. Like, Jason's been with Trailmerge for over a year now, and so that for me was like, there's a loyalty aspect there, right? He's really been so supportive of not just like doing an awesome job, you know, in terms of his work, but he's really been there with me, just as a friend, and you know, supported what we've done in terms of like building the business and things like that. So, you know, you know, and other thing, you know, it was really just for me, just praying about it. And like, you know, I really felt like very strongly, like, you know, he's kind of, no matter where we go, like, I need to bring him on. I need to show him that, that he's, you know, valued part of the team, and that kind of thing. So, you know, there's definitely that stress of like, oh man, like, you know, we gotta like keep things rolling and all that kind of stuff. obviously a part of it too is like, looking at the books and seeing like, okay, here's our runway right now. Yes, this makes sense. And, kind of here's a few different scenarios that this could go. Yes, it still makes sense. And, so Victoria was awesome helping out with, helping think through kind of that whole process and run their financial different scenarios and things like that. So I would say that's definitely a piece of it as well.
Cool. Thanks.
Great. Yes, Kareem, you're up next.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was I appreciated your clarity of thought and the sort of the refinement of your presentation. And I'm excited about your business growing. It sounds fantastic. My comment goes to this piece. I have the perspective that you are sort of deeply credible, right, in this space, and sort of grounded and competent and excellent. How are you thinking about your special sauce? By that I mean this: how are you thinking about what is spectacular about you? How are you thinking about, or how are you thinking about your hook? How are you thinking about sort of these sort of like sort of the pitch that separates you from the other UX organizations that are out there? I was deeply moved by your comment, your referral by broker, right? And I think that is profound and fantastic. My final question, or sort of my final sort of this chunk, is how are you thinking about your customer, right? So this is specifically how, right? So there's one level, which is those organizations that currently have a website that were able to build one, right? That's your audit product, right? Applies to them. And yet your most powerful and profound referral is from someone who you helped take from an idea stage, right? And so there's a little bit of cross niching, if that's a word, right? From a customer perspective. And then finally, how are you thinking about a product for folks like your broker, right? Does it make sense to do, hey, work for us, low cost, we can scope for you, we can help you think through your customer journey before you build. It will cost you X amount of dollars, right? And we can help you save thousands in development costs and reduce your risk and impact, right? So it's a cluster of questions, but how are you thinking about that stuff?
Yeah, so just in terms of, I'll answer this last one first, because I think that gets to a little bit of the special sauce, which our main way of working with clients is on a retainer, really essentially like a monthly subscription type basis. And one of the things that opens up is, especially when you're early stage, you typically don't have the funds or the need, quite frankly, for a full-time designer to come into the company, right? I like to think of it almost in terms of like a 1-to-4 ratio, roughly, where, if you have, let's say, 2 designers or 1 designer on a team, that's going to maybe equivalent to be the equivalent of what a 4-person to 8-person development team is going to be able to catch up with or stay on track with. So when you have a couple developers on your team, you really only need like a quarter of a time of a developer or of a designer. So that's one of the things that we offer is we actually have a very low minimum of 20 hours a month, which doesn't get a ton, but that's kind of just that basic foundation. Where broker's at right now, where they've been for a little while, has been at 40 hours a month, and that's been really, really kind of the right amount for them. But then, I don't think our niche is so much the stage. Definitely, I would say, typically we're looking for 4 or 5 years in business. But that on the other hand, we have another client that's working with us 160 hours. A month, and they are a 7-year-old startup, and we're providing them with kind of a whole different type of support, which also works really well with kind of the embedded team model. So I know that's not quite getting to everything that you asked, but yeah, I think it would really kind of come down to that embedded team model, the flexibility of the packaging in terms of, you know, what level of retainer that needs to be, starting small. And then and I think the team, just the fact that we are very mentorship focused also means that we're very growth minded, and we want to pass that on to the companies that we're working with, entrepreneurs that we're working with as well.
Thank you, Mark. Nice. You're just so like, oh yes, I hear everything you just asked, and I'm just going to cleanly and clearly explain it.
This is many months of painful answers.
It's paying off. Let's put it that way. Unfortunately, we're out of time because we have a few things we need to do before the end of our time together. So the first one is, and let me share my screen, a screen that I prepared earlier. So didn't do it right. There we go. Okay. We need to ask you the $1 million question. What can 1 Million Cups community do for you?
Oh, hey, I have a slide in response.
Woo!
Can I swap you?
Totally.
Sweet.
Show me your slide. I like when people come prepared with slides. Oh, and Victoria, if you want to put in the chat, like your details for connecting with you, that would be great.
Is this?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
you were there.
Oh, I was. Okay.
You were.
Zoom was looking like I was sharing my other screen, so I was confused. Okay, so I was actually 1 Million Cups organizer back in Colorado Springs a few years ago, so I'm used to this question.
Nice.
So coming prepared. But yeah, first thing, I'd love to talk about your startup, and you know, same would go for any SaaS founders that you know. I'd love to just chat with them, do like a virtual coffee, and kind of hear about where things are at, and see if there's any way that we can help, either just from an education point of view or building a relationship. So, and then, you know, the other thing that we're looking for is those potential partners, things like accelerators and you know, startup organizations locally to Seattle. Would love to stay connected with Seattle, and you know, I think, you know, the whole partnership around webinars and things like that, it seems like it's been a really great fit for some of the other communities that we've been working with. So if you know of any folks in that area, would love to meet them. And otherwise, let's just keep in touch on LinkedIn. I'm there. I'm like one of maybe 2 or 3 Mark Tegmeyers, and I'm the one with a beard. So
don't get rid of it.
Pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and just going off our LinkedIn stuff, you know, if you want to follow our page, that's always helpful. Share our content, get the word out about Trailmerge. That's always really appreciated. Yeah, and like you said, we're doing a big push and focus on trying to connect with accelerators. So if you know anyone that works for an accelerator that maybe I could get in touch with about partnering on an educational event, webinar, ask me anything, workshop, anything like that regarding UX. Jay, I saw you posted something in the chat about an event. I don't know if you're looking for help with the educational bit, but happy to talk about that regarding UX. So yeah, any of that would be great as well.
Thank you so much. Yes, we want to help you how we can, and hopefully there are some people who know some people who are sassy. Now, thank you so much for coming. Just to finish up, before we go into our breakout rooms, which Eric will be creating for us, please apply to present. Mark and Victoria just had a whole bunch of fun. I had a whole bunch of fun listening to them. People had fun asking questions. Be a part of that. Make that happen for us. Come and apply to present. It's really easy. And if you need any help applying, let us know. We can walk you through it. Just make sure you're doing something pretty new and you're willing to ask for help and you want to learn by getting into it and sharing. Now, if you want to get involved with us, as Mark has been, and look what he became, I aspire one day to do the same through my 1 Million Cups volunteering. Please get in contact with us and let us know. We're always looking for more volunteers as people get their startups happening, their entrepreneurship journey that keeps going. We want to keep this community happening too. So let us know if you have an interest and we can just start chatting. You don't have to be an organizer straight away. We can see if it works for you. Oh, Nope, didn't change the slide. This was last week and still getting that down, but we will have another presentation next week but Kareem now gets some extra advertising from us. And
we got Ryan next week.
Oh,
Ryan
that's
next
right.
week from Pretz.
We have Ryan, oh no, it's not. Quokka?
Yeah, Quokka is
Yes,
next week.
Oh, it's Quokka. You're right.
Which
That's
is
right. That
funny
got
because
switched.
it's a slightly strange version of the Australian animal, a quokka. And if you've never seen a quokka, an Australian animal, look it up. It's the cutest thing ever. Japanese people love taking photos with it, and you'll see why. Anyway, hopefully that makes you excited about coming to next week's, which has nothing to do with a quokka. Yes, Katie?
Nope.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Okay, I see you. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. We're going to head off into some breakout rooms now. If you can hang around. If you can't, that's okay. We understand. People have things to do. What happens is we jump in the breakout rooms and we'll be with 1 or 2 other people. So around 3 of us. And just, you know, you can follow up if you're with Mark, chat with him more about his work, or Victoria, about their work at Trailmerge. If you're with someone else, get to know them. It's up to you. And you can leave whenever you feel like it and you're ready to, no harm done. And all we want to do is just make sure we can stay connected as a community and get some jam time, knowing that other people are in this with us. So, Eric, if we have a setup breakup.
Ready to go.
We got the thumbs up. All right.
We're ready to go. Here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Trailmerge, for coming today. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Stay in touch with us and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.